Hi, everybody. There are times when our reserves run out, aren't there? It just feels like we're running on an empty tank. You know the old fuel gauge on the on the dash of the car, and it says E, and often people say, "Oh, E's E for enough," but no, this is more. E is for empty and exhausted, and it's time to us for us to restore the soul. And maybe this emptiness has become a pattern that you just can't seem to refill the cup, and any little micro dot of a droplet in the cup seems to be wiped away by someone else's tissue paper, and it just feels like you're completely empty. Yeah, and something needs to come into you to restore some sort of life that's in you. In Psalm 23, the most well known psalm of the Bible, it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul." And it's a beautiful verses, but I want to know how. I want to know how God comes and breathes life into basically a burnt out soul. And I've been burnt out, and I've been very empty and dry. And I wonder how the shepherd restored me. And I think there's three P's that I look back on and say there's three P's that has actually helped me restore and actually continues to restore from just the life drain that normally happens in a normal life of work, relationships, all that sort of stuff, all stresses. Three P's that I think actually help to restore a dried out soul. And the first one is people. Now you might think, oh man, really, people? I know a lot of people who drain my cup, and you'll probably all agree with me. It's like, people restoring my cup? And actually, and also the fact is that I'm a bit of an introvert, so I like my time by myself. I'm not a person that goes off to large conferences and lots of people and noise. That just does not fill my soul. It drains it more than anything else. But there are people who actually really like that sort of stuff, conferences and crowds and noise and people and so on. That fills their soul. That's great for them, and I'd encourage them to do more of that. But for me, it's smaller numbers, one or two people. Much better, much better for me. And it's important to know the difference that that's how I work. Other people work the other way. The important thing to remember is that we were never ever meant to go it alone. We were never meant to go it alone. We were always meant to be in community with at least one or two other people. And so I find that having just one or two other people that I can regularly be with, that just recharges my soul. It restores it. And we're going to talk a bit more about people and these three P's in this little series that we're doing. But for me, people that restore my soul, let's just say it now, are often just want to pour something into me: encouragement, life, um, friendship. Uh, they don't they don't want to try and fix me, advise me, save me, or set me straight. People, the first of the three P's. The second is place. And I think of that place is absolutely crucial to restoration. And for some, it might be a connection with nature, the garden, walking on the beaches or in the mountains. But it could also be places such as art galleries or theatres or museums. It's just places that hold something there that fills the soul. Um, it could be a church building. All right. Notice that I say it's a church building, not a church, which is the people. But it could be an inspiring church building, or it could be a place of a local cafe, or a place where you might go and grab a drink or something with some other people. There's always a place involved. Place offers a context for connection. I live in a very beautiful spot here in New Zealand, and I was driving down to our local shops to get some groceries, and we've got some beautiful coastlines. And a few days ago, I was driving down there, and it was just on sunset, and I drove around the corner, and here was this magnificent sunset just over the beach, over the sand. It just made me stop. I had to stop the car and I got out and took a photo. And you'll have to come over to the website to see this beautiful picture of a sunset and a very still beach and just lovely, tranquil waves. But it was a place that added something deeply into my soul, and it was good. So it restored my soul from the day that I'd had. And there are also places which I would say where you can read more on the blog, third places, and these are places where you go just because you can relax in public. There's no pressures. There's familiar faces, and you're able to just strike up good conversations. You can read more about those on the website. The third P is practices. Now, what am I talking about? Practices. These are things you do. These are behaviors you do. Things that you know that just do something good for you. Now, it could be everything. It could be thousands of options. It just depends on who you are and what you really like to do. It could be everything from cooking, painting, cleaning the house. For some people, it's restoring the whole thing. It could be writing. For me, writing is something. And of course, sleep is a practice that you do that hopefully restores your soul. But these are behaviors and actions we take. We think, we feel, but what behaviors flow out of those thoughts and those feelings that help to restore the soul? There is an intentionality, mostly. I make sure I have an intention of reading my Bible each day. But it could be just unintentional things that you just do that are not, are good for you, and those things add up. But just for like, I don't like to call these spiritually focused activities, but they kind of are. But it could be that you meet with a few others for worship and connection each week. Some people call this the church, but I'm just going to call it a place and some people and a practice where you spend some time in worship or prayer or connecting with others. Restores the soul. A daily Bible reading, maybe prayer, meditation. It could even include things such as an afternoon nap, which I particularly like. The important thing is to take note of what these practices are and make sure you build them into the day and to embrace them with wholeness, and especially afternoon naps. Now, I've put these three P's into this absolutely perfect Venn diagram that you can see: people, place, and practices. All right, very exact, isn't it? Very tight, very nice and neat and so on. But as we know, life is not like that. Life is not perfect. And what I'd say is that we want to be in the middle there, all right, where those sort of things intersect. But sometimes, and most of the time, it's more squidgy, messy, and unpredictable. So throw that away, but it's a good principle. So there's things like, um, people are people. They're not always going to be full of, sometimes they're going to drain. Places, they change, they move, they alter, they suddenly appear, suddenly they go away. Some are intentionally that we go to, some unintentional. Practices, some things that we did years ago, we're not doing now, but hey, we could do those again. And the circles separate and they move around and they change. Um, but I think there's got to be an intentionality to look into each of those three P's and saying, who am I? Who's in my life? Who's filling me? Who am I filling too? Um, are there places that are really special for me? Should I engage in those more? Are there places which aren't so good for me, which I should less engage? Are there practices that I'm doing that are good for me and some aren't good, so good for me? It's been intentional about this. I'd like to sort of finish with a Jesus story about, well, I'll read it to you. And I'd like you to think about those three P's in relationship to the restoring of Jesus' soul, because he got tired too. He was fully human. So 6 days before Passover, all right, and Jesus entered Bethany where Lazarus, so recently raised from the dead, was living. It was interesting. He said, so recently raised from the dead was living. He was living there. He wasn't dead anymore. Anyway, Lazarus and his sisters invited Jesus to dinner at their home. Martha served. Lazarus was one of those sitting at the table with them. Mary came in with a jar of very expensive aromatic oils, anointed, massaged Jesus' feet, then wiped them with her hair. The fragrance of the oils filled the house. Right, that's just the three verses out of John 12, the first three verses. So here's some questions for you. Who were the people involved in restoring Jesus' soul? Who were the people? Now, there's actually, if you read the whole of the story, there's a lot more people in the room. But for this passage, just who are the people that are involved in restoring the soul of Jesus? What was the place? What was the place? And what were the practices that were happening? And there was more than one that were restoring to Jesus' soul. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that. Three P's. Three P's. What are the three P's? Remember them during the week. See if you can focus on them and make it part of your daily restoration of your soul and others too. Okay, bye.